Hey, welcome everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another exciting chapter of IncrediChat. As you know, I'm Mike with you every week here from my cool little basement apartment there. Not basement apartment, basement studio. I have a house. Anyways, tonight we got a cool guest. We're going to talk comics, movies, pop culture, everything, Comic-Cons. As you saw, we have the sign here, TerrifiCon's coming up in 2 weeks, a week away, week in like 2 days. Let's get right into it. Welcome to tonight's show. The showrunner and king of the nerds, Mitch Hallock.
Hey,
Mitch.
Mike, how are you? Wow, you got a basement apartment. I'm living in a dumpster. So
I had a basement apartment.
You're stepping up. You're like the Jeffersons to a deluxe apartment in the sky.
I would be moving on down then.
Yeah. I was like, wow, really?
And my kid may pop up. He's upstairs watching. He's watching Bluey, which is a great kid show. If anybody has ever
Bluey.
It's on Disney. It's on Disney Channel.
Oh, okay.
Plus, it's a preschool show.
Yeah,
it's popular. Maybe some of these parents that come to these shows would be interested in checking those things out.
Yeah.
So Mitch, welcome to the show. I've known you for a few years now. I've been at your show before. The TerrifiCon.
Yes, the Terrific Comic-Con.
Yes, and I mean you have it coming up. This is what year that you're going into now? This is
it's weird how you count years. So 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, we don't count 2020. No. 21. So that would be 6 shows, even though it's 6 years. I don't know. Yeah, anyway, yeah. So there's that many at Mohegan Sun, and then there was 3 prior at other locations in Connecticut. So
wow.
So that's 3 plus. That's 9, I guess, right? Is that my math? I didn't know there was going to be math today, but you know.
I'm not a math guy either. But no. I mean,
so yes, not 9 shows, I guess.
TerrifiCon is probably one of the premier shows, I would say, in the upper East Coast, right? In the New England,
Northeast
area, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Everybody knows it.
That's what my mom tells me. So
people look forward to it. So that's a good thing.
I do. Yeah.
And you do also CT GamerCon too.
I do. That's the other show. Yeah, that's another thing.
So and I definitely do want to talk about TerrifiCon, but I want to talk about you being the king of the nerds.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you and I were talking a little bit behind the scenes there. You know, just the history of how you got into this. And you're on the radio station.
I'm on the radio.
You love Indiana.
I love Indiana Jones.
Which is a nice segue because I think most people who probably have watched this and then they watched you with Michael Grazia, who was my buddy and had you on the other.
I was on last night. Yeah.
But you and I actually share something in common, and it is kind of Indiana Jones related-ish and Comic-Con related-ish.
Okay.
You and I were both on Comic Book Men.
Oh yeah. And I was Indiana Jones on Comic Book Men, so there you go. Were you Indiana Jones too?
I was not Indiana Jones. I went in there with animation art and Hanna-Barbera stuff.
Oh, okay.
I did it twice. So I mean, let's talk Indiana Jones. Let's talk Comic Book Men for a minute.
Yeah.
So your love for Indiana Jones, where does that come from? Because I mean, you're big Fedora Marketing.
Yes, sir.
That's your agency. So obviously, Indy certainly.
Prior to that was known as Indie Marketing.
Okay.
Which was named after my dog, Indiana, who was named after the state. No, he was named after George Lucas's dog, Indiana, who became the inspiration for Chewbacca and then certain archaeologists. Actually, you know what's funny? A lot of people don't know that. That dog that the Malamute, the Alaskan Malamute that they based Chewbacca on is actually Marsha Lucas's dog, not George Lucas's dog. No, they don't talk about that because Marsha Lucas is kind of like a forgotten pioneer in the whole Lucasfilm thing. They kind of just don't talk about George's first wife because I found this out when I went to Lucasfilm. I went for a tour because the love of Indiana Jones got me doing reporting for a website called theraider.net, which is an Indiana Jones website since 2001, I think, or 2000. So I started doing that when they started making that movie that's behind you. And I got to go to Lucasfilm and then ILM and all that. And they said, if you see Mr. Lucas, don't make eye contact and don't do this and don't do that. Yeah, it's weird. And I said, but I just want to ask him one question if I do see him. They go, what? I said, well, we have a dog named Indiana. And I'm like, why does a guy who's from Modesto, California, that's where Lucas is from, name his pet after a Midwestern state? And everyone was like, oh, don't say that. If you say don't talk about it. I'm like, why? Why can't I don't shh. And then I found out that it was Mrs. Lucas's dog, and that's like, you just don't talk about. I'm like, that is really weird that you guys can't talk about her, and weird about the dog. So anyway, yeah. So how did I get into Indiana Jones? Is that what the question was?
Like Indiana Jones, because obviously you named your dog, and Indiana Jones, what year did the first one come out? Like 81?
1981, Mike. It was 40 years ago. Yeah, this last month, actually. Yeah.
So and obviously you're a kid of the 70s. You watched Star Wars.
Yes, I did. Yep, I was there.
And so over Star Wars, what made you gravitate to Indiana Jones over
Star Wars is, I always have that contest, like, what's my favorite movie of all time? It's funny, right over there I'm looking at a Italian Star Wars poster, and right next to it is an Australian Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom poster. So it's almost a toss-up on what day, which is the number one in my heart. But I love Star Wars, loved everything about it because I was a comic book kid, and that literally was the best Marvel comic ever put on the screen, even though the adaptation by Howard Chaykin is garbage, and he knows that, and he admits that, and I know that, and we all do. I used to look at that thing and go, ugh! But I went to Catholic school, being a little Catholic boy, and then we had to learn all about, the Ark of the Covenant and all this stuff. And so in 1981, I'm at an all-boys Catholic high school, Notre Dame, and this movie comes out, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is all the stuff that they tell us about in religion class with Mr. Parkinson at 9 in the morning, where we have to learn the Old Testament. And I'm like, I know all about that thing, the Ark of the Covenant. And it was cool. It was like going to Catholics religion class with Nazis and gunplay and horses and dragon. I always look at Raiders Lost Ark, the first movie, as kind of like if they made a Nick Fury movie, like Sergeant Fury. And I always was, as a kid, I would say, wow, this is like the Sergeant Fury movie. Before there was a Marvel movie studios, I'm like, if they ever made a Howling Commandos, that guy would be it, Yeah. And I just thought it was a fantastic. I saw it like 18 times that summer. I just kept going back. That and Superman 2. They were both playing. And it would be like I'd go to the theater and I'd go sneak in from one and the other because there was no VCR and all that. But yeah, I just thought it was fantastic. That was another comic book. Star Wars was a sci-fi comic, and Raiders was like a World War II action comic. So it's like you couldn't get better than that. And I just fell in love with it. And then Temple of Doom came out, and it was a totally different type of story, and it was more action. It was crazier. And then The Last Crusade. And the funnier thing is I see Raiders when I get into high school. Temple of Doom comes out when I'm graduating high school. And when I'm graduating college, Last Crusade comes out. And that's kind of like the end. That's like he rides off to the sunset. Yeah. So it's kind of like my entire teenage life, Indiana Jones and Star Wars are like going, every year. It was 80 was Empire Strikes Back, 81's Raiders. Then we got a break. Then we got 83 is Jedi. Then we got 84. So it's almost like every summer after there was another thing at school, there'd be another Lucas Harrison Ford movie or something,
And then you Willow in there for good measure.
Yeah, and he just you kind of grow up with it, I kind of grew up with them, and then you just kind of like that's your childhood and stuff. So I guess that's why I'm a huge fan. I never really thought about it like that, but
yeah, like my entry drug into the world of Indiana Jones. Like I definitely saw Raiders when I was younger, but I was obsessed with Temple of Doom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's the first one. I guess probably because for me it was just the action and
that's great.
The dinner that they have at the bank.
Oh yeah. The snake surprise. Yeah. All that chilled monkey brains. Oh yeah.
Exactly. And then obviously I just fell in love with the rest of them. Obviously then they made this new one, and there's a new one coming.
Yeah. And then they made Crystal Skull, which I was like, okay. I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, and I used to always hate. You always hate where you're from, no matter how great the town is. You hate where you're from. And I hated being from New Haven. I was like, this town sucks, man, because it's all Yale University and then the rest of it. That's how New Haven is. It's like big, beautiful university, and then the rest of us. It's like a different world. So I would work around there, and you'd see it like the walled city. You couldn't go in there, but I'd go to the movies, and I'd see Temple of Doom and all that stuff. And I'd go to the comic book store around the corner, where Mike Zeck was going there, and Ordway. All of it. They all lived down there, so it was kind of a cool thing. It was like a mini New York. But I would see my movies and my comics in New Haven. And then they come and make this movie. And it's so funny. I'm going upstairs. I'm a graphic designer. And it's on the corner of Church and Chapel. It's a building. And the first floor, it's got like paper all over the windows, all over the glass windows. They don't want you to see inside there. And I'm going on the second floor where my buddy has a computer software company. And I go, hey, what the hell's going on downstairs? He goes, I don't know. Some movie company's in town. I said, well, what are they making? He goes, I don't know. They're all hush-hush about it. They got all this paper on the windows. It's called something Genre Productions. I go, what? He goes, Genre, genre. What does that mean? I go, I don't know. So he goes, why don't you go get a job down there? Maybe they're hiring, designers or art people. I'm like, yeah, nah, I'm not doing that. And I literally would walk by it every day. And then the newspaper announces there's going to be a new Indiana Jones movie. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. Oh, one of the locations is going to be Yale University. That's weird. Oh, New Haven. Oh my God, that's the production. And that was it. And there was Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy and Spielberg and Lucas. They were all right there. And I'm literally like the fanboy guy walking by every day going, wait, what's over there? Oh my God, it's Indiana Jones, And they filmed that movie there. And I tried out to be an extra. Okay. And I got written up in Entertainment Weekly magazine because me and my two small sons, and we had the dog Indy that said, Indy fan hopes to get into the movie. And I went down to the audition, and I didn't get it because I think I was a little too overzealous about it. I was like, oh, yeah. They're like, we don't want this guy. He's going to attack Harrison Ford, which might have happened. And I didn't get in the part, but I started writing because, it's on the street. And I was taking pictures because I grew up there. So I knew all the locations. So I'm taking photographs. And remember MySpace?
Yes.
Way before Facebook. So I'm uploading images of what I'm seeing to MySpace, and I don't know who's doing it. And I start seeing there's like 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, and all these people from around the world are suddenly looking at my MySpace page to look at my photos and hear me talk about, well, look, they just converted this into Marshall College. And suddenly it's like I got the Raider.net people saying, hey, will you be our on the street reporter? Tell us what's going on. Yeah, okay. So I walk around the corner one day, and there against a tree is Spielberg and Harrison Ford rehearsing a scene. And I'm literally walking in there. I'm like, hey, what's up, guys? And I'm taking pictures, and they're like, what are you doing? You just walked on a live set. And they took my camera. They deleted the pictures. And then I talked to my buddy who worked at the local news. He's like, they can't take your photos. This isn't Russia. You can't take people's property. So I said, you're right. So they interviewed me that night for the evening news. It says local fans camera taken and photos deleted from Indiana Jones set. Oh and Frank Marshall comes out the next day on camera. He's like, look, we're really sorry. We didn't mean to bother the poor kid. If you want to take pictures, have at it. We understand it's your city. We shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, oh my God, I've embarrassed myself in front of Frank Marshall. And then, so I just did that. And then my friend in Australia was doing what they would call a podcast back in 2007, which was like the early days of podcasting.
Was it even a podcast at that point? Or what?
Yeah, there was podcasts. There was the Force.net, which was the Star Wars podcast talking about all those. And then they started doing the IndieCast. Now I was writing the articles, and this guy was just taking the articles and reading the articles on this podcast, this audio thing. And I wrote to him, I'm like, hey, dude, that's my stuff. He's like, what? I said, I'm the guy who's writing all those news articles you're right. Oh, you are? So then I started going on his show, and we're still doing that show for 14 years. Oh my God. Still do the IndieCast. We've got like over 400 episodes, and we've talked about every Indiana Jones thing, from his hat to his belt buckle to his I don't know who makes his shoes, who makes his whip. We've done every possible thing you could talk about for Indiana Jones. We've covered on that show, and we still do. And then now we got a movie coming.
Yeah.
We got a 5th movie coming, and I know more about that movie than I don't want to tell you. I know who the storyboard artist is on the movie. I know what's going to happen.
you know it's going to happen.
Yeah, I've ruined it for myself again. It's like Christmas. I ripped my presents open. I'm like, wrap them up, and put them away. So pretend you're surprised when you see it next year. Now, you know what's worse? You know what's worse, Mike? Guess when it opens?
When?
July 29th, 2022.
TerrifiCon.
TerrifiCon is July 29th. I was like, no! And my wife's like, what? I go, well, I won't be there. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, I'll be at the movie. She goes, I'll kill you. I go, no. I am not missing this movie. This is the last Harrison Ford Indiana Jones movie.
Well, this was the last one, though, too.
Right. No, this one really is because they're practically killing the guy. I mean, he's got a busted shoulder, and it's
like, for 3 months. I saw.
Yeah, it's not as bad as they make it sound. He'll be back sooner. It's Harrison Ford, for God's sakes. He's been almost crippled during Temple of Doom. He almost became paralyzed because his discs got ruptured or something. He crashed an airplane, crashed a helicopter. They dropped the Millennium Falcon on him and it broke his leg during Force Awakens. Yeah. He still keeps going.
And he's what, like in his what?
He's 79, July 13th. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you. So, I mean, obviously,
that answers a question. I'm obsessed with Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to ask you this question now too. So, Indiana Jones, and you kind of know where things are headed for this 5th installment. First of all, could you do a screening at TerrifiCon? Would that be feasible or doable?
I don't know. That might be a way to get around this because we do have a movie theater, and I have done movies there before. Yeah. Oh my goodness, Mike, it's crazy, but it just might.
And then
I don't know. I'll see.
But let me ask you. So obviously, I mean, Indiana Jones is going to, iconic film character. Obviously to like our generations, and
the James Bond for our generation. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, it's funny. I just picked up at a local yard sale, and I've been looking for these online, and like there goes pricey now. The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Oh, I have that on DVD. Sean Patrick Flannery. Yeah.
3 sets, $6. Fantastic deal. Crazy.
It is a good deal. I got the box set with the DVDs. I paid a lot more than that. So.
I know. But now let me ask you. So Sean Patrick
Flannery. Yep.
River Phoenix. I don't know. I can't think of the actor who played like
Corey Carrier was young Indy.
The old Indy too. Who was the actor that played?
That was George Henry. No, George. I can't think of it right now, but his name was George the first. George Hall.
Yes. Do you see, like you said, the James Bond of our generation? Do you see somebody down the road continuing the Indiana Jones legacy, or do you think it's something better off? However, this movie is.
Oh, I think they should have given us about 9 Indiana Jones movies by now. I'm still never going to be happy with that. They should have done just like they did with James Bond. And every couple years done another adventure. Yeah. And that's what I thought was going to happen back in 1981 and then 84 with Temple of Doom. I go, oh, this is great. Why are you stopping this? And then they say, oh, we're done. 89. We write it off in the sunset. And I'm like, what? And I always was hoping he was going to come back. And then you look back, honestly, at all the missed opportunity. There's got to be some type of, I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? Resentment, maybe? Yeah. Because you sit back and you go, did he really need to do Hollywood Homicide? Did he really need to do 7 Days and 7 Nights? K9. These are all these Harrison Ford movies. It's like the same amount of time you take to make that clunker. I would have sat through even a crappy Indiana Jones movie because it's like, yeah, it's Indiana Jones.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, who do you see taking the helm of any actors now? I mean, people talked about Chris Pratt.
Nah, Chris Pratt's. No, he's not that smart. Years ago, I actually thought Dennis Quaid could have made a good Indiana Jones. He had that Harrison Ford. If you want to go by type, like what he looks like, there's an actor named Anthony Gruber who played a young Harrison Ford in that movie with what's her name? She's Ryan Reynolds' wife. And she doesn't age or something like that. And Harrison Ford met her when he was a young man, and then he goes and becomes older. It was like a weird story like a couple years ago. But there was an actor that looked just like a young Harrison Ford. Better than that kid that they hired for Solo.
Oh, who's like right?
Yeah, he's a foot shorter, And I'm like, what did you get? The whole movie, Solo was okay, but I kept just staring at this kid going, he's about 5'2". Harrison Ford's 6 feet. Trust me, I met him. It's like, You don't.
He's a big guy.
Why couldn't you get a taller actor? You know, so I don't know. Who else would play a good Harrison Ford? You know, Sean Patrick Flannery. He's not like a household name, but he is about 53, 54. I mean, you could call him up. He could do some indie stuff, you know. But where would you set it though?
Well, that's what I was just thinking too, because I mean, this next one they're saying is what the space race. I know that's what I've read.
Yeah. There's a lot of 69 moon landing stuff in there, but there's also some Nazi stuff. So there's definitely like a 1940s flashback type of thing because they had the Harrison wearing the little dots that they do the de-aging thing. Yeah.
With I can't think of the Toby Jones, right?
Toby Jones, yeah, from Captain America, but a pile of other movies as well. But yeah. So we'll probably see young Indy, or not young Indy, but a younger Indiana Jones.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see how and again, you know, I'm curious as to how he'll ride off into the sunset. I
think he'll disappear. That's what I keep telling people. I keep thinking it'll be like, well, what happened to Indiana Jones? Well, I don't know. We never found him. Like his body was never recovered. So he could either be off on some other epic journey or he's lost in time. Wink, wink. Or, that's it. He can't die. He can't die.
Well, were you a little worried at the end of Crystal Skull where Mutt picked up the hat at the end?
Yeah. I was like, don't do that. Don't do that. And again, I remember Lucas coming out and saying this was the beginning of a new trilogy. And I talked to Karen Allen and she's like, oh yeah, I'll be filming Indiana Jones 5 back then, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been 14 years.
Yeah. Now she's not in the new one. You haven't heard of
Yes, she is.
Oh, she is. Oh, because I mean,
because I was trying. Here's a secret. I was trying to get her for TerrifiCon now, but she's like, "Oh no, I'm not around. I'm in England." Oh, why is she in England? Oh, they're filming Indiana Jones 5 in England, so right now. So whatever.
Maybe next year, her and John Rhys Davies, right?
Well, I wanted to get her and John Rhys Davies or what Rice for this year. Because it's the 40th anniversary of Raiders Lost Ark. That was my plan last year until this thing called COVID came to town and ruined everyone's plans, not just mine. But my plan was to do the 2020 show. And then for the 2021 show that we're about to do next week, a salute to Raiders Lost Ark. And that's why one of the things you'll see at TerrifiCon next week is the Ark of the Covenant. We got a full-scale replica we built. Of the Lost Ark. We know where it is now. It's right between the soda, the root beer guy, and the photo op place. You'll find the Ark of the Covenant. You know.
Well, you know, let's talk a little TerrifiCon. So that's next week, and you mentioned the Ark of the Covenant. So is that the years I've been there? You have like those big like Galactus. You know.
No, Thanos. Oh, we had the Galactus head. You're right. Yeah, we had that.
So is that this year's like centerpiece?
No, well, Thanos is back because he's so big that we can't not have him there. And Starlin's there, so it's almost like you have to have Thanos there. So Thanos is there. The Ark of the Covenant's going to be there. They've got some new, those monsters from I think it was Critter. No, not with Tremors.
Okay.
Tremors. The kid built some Tremors stuff. The same guy that built Kyle. The same guy that built the Thanos. He built these giant Tremor monsters or whatever, so they're going to be there. The Ark's going to be there. There's going to be there's like a whole wall full of stuff that you can go take photo ops with. So yeah, I didn't really have a big one because honestly, I wanted to just do a welcome back. The whole show is welcome back. The whole thing. I could have got Gabe Kaplan. That's a welcome back Cotter thing that no one's going to get. But honestly,
I get that.
Yeah, you get it because you're old as dirt like me. But no, the whole thing was to be like, thank you for coming back.
Yeah.
We made it. We're here. We're back. Yay. Comic conventions. Yay. So
and I know this, you've probably been talked the ear off about this one. Where do you see comic conventions? Like yours is probably one of the first big ones here on this coast.
Yeah.
Since
the before times. Yeah.
So, like where do you see Comic Cons going now with this? Because
actually, I think it's like a reset button, because it was before everything went wrong with the pandemic. Things were getting out of control. Things were getting like fever pitch. It's like this show's got 120,000. Well, this one's got 200,000, and this one's got 250,000. And they were just like some bizarre game, like a contest, like who could have the most people. But at the end of the day, there was like they're losing the substance of it all. You know, the content wasn't there. It was just more of like a pissing contest, like who's got the more people, and look at all the crazy things we've got. Where I'm always like intimate, smaller. I don't need to be 50,000 people. I'm happy with, you know, I want you to go up to talk to Mike Zeck. I want you to go talk to Dan Slott. I want you to talk to Chris Claremont. Actually have a conversation with maybe some of the people you've read for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, instead of just being like, next. You know, it's like a freaking deli with the little ticket, you know? So I was like, the funny thing is we didn't change. The world changed around us, but Terrificon is the same show. It's always been. It's like quiet, smaller crowds, not crazy crowds. We're just, you know, I always say the Goldilocks show. It's not too small. It's not too big. Just right. You know, it's just right.
Well, I mean, you definitely are bigger now. I mean,
I am bigger now. Yeah. But that's my stomach.
I loved when I first started coming, like you mentioned, like the intimacy of it, you know, when you like in those little carpeted rooms. I mean, now you got that whole big hanger, right?
Yeah. Well, we outgrew those carpeted rooms really quick. Like the first year. I mean, the first year we were at the convention center at Mohegan Sun, I spaced everything apart. I thought I had enough room, and then it was like, oh my God, there's so many people here. There was like 18,000 people the first year.
Yeah.
And then we started using the upstairs room for panels.
Yep.
And then I started doing one room of video games because I had an extra room. And then I saw the line going out the door. I go, what's going on? And everyone's like, they're playing video games. I'm like, that's a thing? And that's how GamerCon started, only because I said, is there shows where they just do video games? And they go, not really, not like this. So that's started that show. And then they built the expo center. Mohegan Sun built that massive 300,000 square foot expo. And I was like the first show in there. Mm-hmm. They're like, they open it, and we were like the test subjects, because I remember we blew the speakers out, the PA system. It was interesting what was going on behind the scenes when we first got there, because everything was new, you know.
Yeah.
And we filled it right away. Here it was, brand new place. And what did I do? I'm like, oh, let's put KidsCon over there. Let's put the video games over there. Let's put the Magic the Gathering. Let's put the workshops. We even had a model train guy set up, you know. It was like every square inch had something to see. It was like Disney World. Everywhere you look, there's something else, you know.
You know, and I think that's really like one of the best things about conventions in general is, you know, giving something for everybody. Like, and I mean, you mentioned the kids thing. I do kids stuff, and I've done kids stuff at your show. You know, you know, for geeks like us, you know, we were kids. This is the next generation, you know, to keep this going.
You've got a young kid, and my sons are all grown up now, and I remember dragging them to like the Big Apple cons and other cons, and they used to be bored to tears, because as much as you want to talk to the guy who drew Green Lantern number, 97 or whatever, Joe Staten or whatever, your kids don't. You know, and it was like, I would look, my wife would come sometimes when they're really little, and they're just like in tears, and they're not enjoying themselves. And then when they were older, I would take them to New York Comic Con, and then I said, this is the worst, because they were about 9 or 10 years old, which is about butt level, I called it. Yeah. So imagine being in a big, thick crowd of people as adults, but imagine being like ass high, and all you see is Deadpool cosplay butts all around. You know what I mean? It's like, this is not enjoyable. It's terrifying, actually. And so that's why when we came to do our show, and I was like, you know what? Call Franco up from All Ya Comics, and we're like, can we do something that's a little calmer, that's a little more, kid friendly? So when Dad's over there in line waiting for Chris Claremont, Junior could be over there drawing a superhero or doing face painting or making something. We've had robot wars. We've had all kind of stuff in the show. So just want to make sure everybody gets their money's worth, and then I get the kids in free. That's the other thing too, because I would feel bad when I would take my kids to shows and I'm buying a $20 ticket and they want to go home in 5 minutes. And you're like, I just spent $40. I could have bought an action figure with that or a comic book. So I'm like, hey, at least the kids get in free. So if something does go bad, you're like, well, at least I didn't lose that money. You know?
Well, and listen, and the other thing is too, and you mentioned that, you know, your kids being older, my kid being 8, you know, that whatever, $15, $20 for that ticket.
It adds up.
Well, and also that you paid on that ticket admission, you know, your kid's going to want something. So give that money to a vendor, because the vendors will be happy then.
Thank God there's so many vendors with dollar comic boxes. I mean, I go through them, but it was great for kids, you know, because it's like, hey, here's $10, go now. And there's sometimes 2 for $1. You get 50-cent boxes. Yeah, you know, or I would get free comic book day stuff and I'd give it out to the kids and stuff, and I'd see that. But they're like, I don't want to read Donald Duck. What's this? It's stupid. I don't want to read this. What is this, Teletubbies? I'm like, yes, it's a comic book. Read it.
Yes.
I was at the barbershop reading Highlights magazine sometimes. I mean, we never had a choice.
What is
got? Right? Yes, Archie comics. Find the little horse in the maze. You're like, oh, this sucks, but it's the only comics they have. Little Lulu.
Oh my God, I'm thinking back. Did you ever read Boys Life magazine?
Yes, Boys. I was just thinking of Boys Life. Yeah,
and Gallant, right? Was it? Those are the characters.
Ranger Rick, the little guy. Yeah. Oh boy, that's a lot of weird stuff coming back now. I remember all those magazines, but then there'd be like Cracked magazine and Mad magazine and Crazy magazine. You know?
Yeah. Gosh, I remember those. Those racks, and that was like one of the best things was going to you know, like the grocery store.
Oh, the newsstands. Remember the newsstands? You'd go into a store, it was like a bookstore, and they just had like paperback novels everywhere. That was like the deal, the paperbacks, and then magazines and newspapers from all around the world or around the country. There'd be like different papers, like the San Antonio Telegraph. You're like, wow, this came from Texas, you know?
And the spinner racks. Oh my God.
The spinner racks. Oh, I got one right over there, actually. A real spinner rack. Yeah.
The best, and I'm sure you probably ran into these too. There was a store where I grew up over in Orange County, New York. They wouldn't change out their spinner racks, so you can go and like find like, you know,
and they'd be squished all the comics from they'd shove them in there. None of that mint, none of that stuff, none of that 9.5 CGC nonsense.
But it was cool because then you're like, oh, I dig this story. Now I want to read everything else, you know, and it was there.
Yeah, we didn't have a digital comics. But you had to go find that stuff, you know, or a friend of yours had a copy of it, or you read reprints. I read so many Marvel Tales and World's Greatest Comics and Marvel Triple Action. I didn't know they were reprints. You know, on the bottom, little thing, this originally appeared in Fantastic Four 27. Well, I never read it, so it's brand new to me, you know, so I was reading all that stuff.
There you go.
So many Marvel Tales reprints around here. Oy.
We have a question, you know, about the displays. Angela Bergeron, I'm sorry.
Oh, I know Angela. Hey.
She wants to know, will it cost to take photo ops with the displays, and if so, how much?
No. The arc of I think the arc is like $5 because we got to give Andy something for building all this stuff, and I don't think we charge for Thanos. I think Thanos is just stand in front of Thanos.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
You had the main lobby, and then I remember like but before you moved over, it was by the Escalade.
Yeah. We had Galactus. Yeah, no, that was all free. That was all free. I think the car guys would charge, like the Batmobile guys. If you wanted to get in the Batmobile, that would be like $5 or $10. Yeah. This year I got a Back to the Future car, Herbie the Love Bug because I'm old, 2 Jurassic Park vehicle, and a Batmobile. 66 Batmobile. You got to have a Batmobile. It's like state law. You cannot do a comic book event without a Batmobile from one of the movies.
Now, what better one than the 66 Batmobile?
I know, but you know what I want somebody to build? I want somebody to build the animated Batman series one. Oh. It's just like a long...
Yeah.
You know, no one's ever built that. I'm like, I don't know about making cars. I don't know if it's even possible. But how hard could that be? I tried to build a Batwing 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. I bought a scaled replica of it, and the same guy that built the Thanos, he's got one of those 3D printers. Mm-hmm. And we found the specs for it, and it wasn't that big, and we were going to scan it and then expand it. But the problem is with the Batwing from the '89 Batmobile movie, Michael Keaton, it's long and flat. It's not very big, so you really don't see much. It's just like a wafer. It's like a frisbee, but it looks cool. And the only way you really get to see it is if it's like on its side, so it looks like a bat. you know, like in the movie. And I was going to hang it from the ceiling, but we never got to do it.
Wow.
I wanted to, though.
Yeah, I can see sitting there in the front, like you said. Oh, what is this flat disc? It's a UFO.
Yeah, you know, if you didn't know what it is. I try to get a lot of, you wouldn't believe this stuff I want to do. I just don't have the resources sometimes and the money, you know, because there's a lot of ideas I have about what I'd like to design that place to be.
Gotcha.
But
let me ask, like, for next weekend when people come, what are some of the things that you're most excited? Some of the guests that you're most excited to have that you want to share with the people that are going to.
Well, Michael Rooker, because he's been on my list for years. Like literally, I've been bugging his management for 5 years to get him here. So I loved him before he was Yondu, before he was Merle on The Walking Dead. I remember him from Mallrats and Cliffhanger and all that from the 90s. You know, I always thought he would have been a great Ben Grimm. Like if they made the Fantastic Four in the 90s, he could have been Ben Grimm.
I'd support that, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm looking forward to finally meeting him. Comic book wise, because it is a comic book convention, let's not forget that.
Yeah.
I want to meet Tim Sale. Love Tim Sale's work. Lee Weeks is back. I haven't had Lee Weeks since I did the Bridgeport show. Love Lee Weeks. John Cassaday, one of my favorite Captain America artists. He'll be there. Donnie Cates is back. Joe Giella, like 93-year-old Joe Giella, living legend. Those are the people there for the artwork. I mean, I was nerding out today. I took a picture of it. I was going around my house, starting to forage through all my junk, what I want to get autographed, what I want to get signed, what Funko Pop do I want to get signed, what toy do I want to get autographed, for what? Just to bring it back into the house, to shove it in the corner to get dust on it. But
well, I mean, obviously for those at home too. I mean, I'm just going to give you the full screen for a minute. I mean, I have this.
Oh, there's stuff everywhere back here.
Listen, that's my basement is the same way. Like we were talking about Star Wars before. I have all my my Star Wars, my vintage, like my Falcon and all that, and AT-AT.
Oh, you got all that? I just have my figures, my original Star Wars figures. They're in a box right here. But I bought when my sons were little. It was always for the kids. I bought the new AT-AT that came out with the bigger one, and I did not get that massive Millennium Falcon because it was so big, but I wanted that the BMF. Did you get it?
No. I still have mine, and you know what? With the figures and stuff, it looks fine. You can't put like the weirdly shaped Han and Chewie in there.
No, you can't. No, and I've got all my Indiana Jones figures over there, still carded, that I got years ago, and there's a Marion Ravenwood somewhere over here that Chris Gugliotti, the artist, gave me.
Well, which Indiana Jones figures do you have? Do you have the original run or the one that
I unplugged you?
Oh,
sorry about that. I unplugged you. I was reaching for my Marion.
You have now. These are the ones. These are the new ones, or these are the
no
original.
No, this is the original. Yeah, there's Marion, and she had a little monkey that came with her, and she had shoes. But anyway, that's Marion. No, I bought all the new indie stuff, but the old stuff, there's something about that old stuff that's just kitschy, you know? I mean, the 5 points of articulation, the lameness of it all, but it was good. That's all we had. It was very creative, very simplistic, and very creative. If you go back, there's a quaintness to the old Star Wars figures, you know? The way they were the very limited coloring, very limited detail, but it just screamed childhood. You know what I mean? It's like, this is every adventure you could ever want to do with Yoda and a stormtrooper, you know,
and Lobot,
you know. No, my favorite was Bosk. I just loved Bosk. I thought he was cool, and his gun that just kind of had that weird little hook thing. IG-88 Bosk, Han Solo in the Hoth outfit, because we live here in the snow up north, so it's like, oh, it's cool, it's a snow thing. I always thought Darth Vader looked horrible, like he was wearing long johns. I thought that was like one of the worst ones. Like, this is the best you could do. Tusken Raider was always cool, that one, because he had the gaffy stick. And Lobot was all right for a bald dude with like speakers, you know.
Let me ask. We mentioned that Han and the Hoth. Did you have the Tauntaun with the belly?
The belly? No, I didn't have that. No, I see. I'm 55, so Star Wars came out. I did the early bird thing, a mail away for it. I got my figures, and then I got this. They were at the Kresge's, which becomes Kmart and Woolco, and they were $1.98, I think they were. And I remember my grandmother. I'd go down to New Haven with her with the storage, and I'd go to Kresge's, and there'd be a peg wall, and I'd get one toy. And I remember starting to get the Star Wars toys, but then for some stupid reason, I started getting the Micronauts, which was a Mego toy. And I'm like, why am I buying the Micronauts? They're, what the hell? The best one ever was the Stormtrooper. It just looks so damn cool. And I remember, I think my sister just took it and snapped it like a wishbone.
Oh my
and
God.
his leg was gone, so I had to get industrial strength airplane glue. So my poor Stormtrooper had this weird, like, bubbled up glue on his leg, and it never moved. I was just like, I'm with you. I can't move my leg because Mitch's sister Kim broke me. But
well, with my C-3PO still missing his hand. My sister would, because she was younger than I am, so she was like 3 or 4, so she'd be still putting stuff in her mouth. And
oh no,
the foot. 3PO lost his hand. I still have that 3PO, but it is what it is.
I know. Did the shine come off your 3PO? Mine's more of a silver color. It's not gold. I'm like, I don't know what happened to the electro.
Yeah, he has a very little left on him.
Yeah.
And those the R2D2 and what the other guy.
Yeah, and it kills me in 1985. I'm in college, and the KB toy stores had those giant bins of all the Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, Power of the Force, 3 for $5. And I'm like, who wants this junk? I mean, how many Rancor keepers could you possibly want? Because he seemed to be everywhere. He was the big fat guy. I was like, what the freak? The Rancor keeper,
Well, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Toy stores at probably 85.
Yes.
I remember that I went to something and I was collecting bottles. That was like my money making thing as a kid. I was like, and I was like in maybe like 6th grade.
What, for a nickel deposit for the return?
Yeah,
okay.
I was collecting bottles, right?
Yeah, 20 bottles, you got a toy. $1 right there.
Exactly, right? So I did well one day, and I probably got maybe like $5 or $6 in bottles, right?
Wow, good for you.
And I know after collecting, and so I went to the store where they had there was a KBs in there.
Yeah.
Picked up a couple of the droids figures. And
did you?
They were like
the droids from the TV cartoon droids?
Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
They were like 99 cents. So I was like,
cool. They couldn't give that crap away.
So you mentioned, but now
I know. Even the Ewok toys. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
With the little Princess Leisha or whatever her name was, or Tisha, with the little pink thing. I'm like, who wants this crap? Mike's got him.
I don't have Lisa, but my little Endor.
You got the little. That's him. That's the little Wicket. Yeah. That dude.
Yeah, the bad guy.
Yeah, that's the one that people want. Wasn't he like the hard to come by one?
He was like the main villain of the show.
But yeah.
1985, $1. There you go.
1985, and that's when the Ewok movies were on ABC TV. Caravan of Courage, and the Battle for Endor, I think it was.
Yeah, with Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, they were cheesy. They were real cheesy movies.
I like Battle for Endor better though. That was
because it had more action in it, but it's a real dark movie because the girl's family's all wiped out in the first 2 minutes. I'm like, wow, that's mean, Yeah. But no, it was cool. They had the Witches of Dathomir on there,
and then you had that little Teak, the little fast guy.
Yeah, and then they had that weird thing that they ride that you would see again in The Mandalorian. I'm like, that's the thing from The Mandalorian. So
all on Disney Plus now, which is
I know. I tried watching them, but it was hard. It was really.
I was trying to watch some droids the other night. I was like, oh, this is on there now. We were sitting here like, oh, what can we watch?
Droids is on Disney Plus now? They
must have just added it probably within the last couple of weeks.
Oh, I did not know that. I know they have the Star Wars Holiday Special thing with Boba Fett, which that's always cool for some reason because I think the voices were on it.
Yeah, but like it's weird and they look.
The animation's weird. It's very heavy metal-esque. It's
yes,
but it's still a cool cartoon.
So
the Holiday Special is the worst.
I've never made it through the entire thing.
I have it on tape. We actually I do a YouTube show with the kid from Australia called Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure.
Yes.
And we review all stuff from our childhood. And we did a whole show about, is the Star Wars Holiday Special as bad as people say it is? And we were like, yeah, we actually go through the whole thing. Like, would you leave this in? Would you leave that in? For a 2-hour show, I think we edited it down to about 45 minutes of watchable footage. And the rest is trash.
Did you leave B. Arthur in there?
My friend was partial to song and dance, so he left B. Arthur. I killed the Art Carney stuff. I'm like, get this out of here. And the weird fight Han has the stormtrooper did kill some, or the bizarre porno videos that the grandfather's watching with who's the Deanne? Is it Deanne Warwick or something? There was some Donna. I can't remember who it was. There was some 70s pop icon singer, and she's got like this long wig on, and she dances around, and he's got this VR headset. It was strange.
Was the little brother like Lumpy or something like that?
Lumpy. Yeah, that was a little brother. That's Chewie's son.
His son.
And his wife Mala, and his father Itchy, and introducing Chewbacca's family. That's how the voiceover is. And it says, and his son Lumpy. His son looked like Adam Rich from It Is Enough, you know.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It just every time I watch it, I go, oh look, it's Adam Rich, because they had that Dutch boy haircut back in the day, you know. Yeah, we all had that.
That's so funny.
It's a nasty show.
Horrible.
I want to go watch it right now. After we're done, I'm like, what? Well, let me go watch it. If Droids is on, I'm going to go and watch that afterwards. Forget doing TerrifiCon. I've had enough of it today.
Droids. So yeah, let's go back to TerrifiCon. So
back to that. Yeah.
Because I mean that's also why we're here. But I mean, folks can stop and talk all this cool pop culture stuff with you too.
That's why I'm the king of nerds, because this is all I do.
So let me just ask for anybody watching that hasn't seen you on anything else. You know, people who might be a little cautious or worried about all the stuff going on. Oh, not of you.
Whoa. I'm afraid of that Mitch. Is there some type of spray that we could put on him?
I mean,
Mitch.
And I heard you talking about Mohegan Sun has been open.
Yes.
Constantly.
And it opened last June after everything was locked down, because at the end of the day, they had to make money, and they don't make money if they're closed. So unlike other venues like concert halls and stadiums and arenas and stuff that have been closed, the Mohegan Sun's never closed since last June. And they installed a temperature checking device. So when you go through the entrances, it reads your body temperature. So if anything was running a fever, they would bring you to the side and then do the temperature check on you again. And if it was too hot, you had to go. They wouldn't let you in the building for safety's sake. And then they have Purell everywhere. It's like every 5 feet there's a Purell station. So that's good too. And they have the social distancing. And then they had the masks in effect. But now it's, if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear the mask there. If you're unvaccinated, they ask that you please do wear the mask. And that's what it is. So it's got a lot of layers of protection, and there's some ultraviolet thing that they have that I don't know the full scientific stuff behind it, but it is on their website, and they describe it about, I don't know how it works, but they invested in some type of ultraviolet lighting thing. I'm not going to even try to explain it because I don't understand how it works. I'm stupid. I run comic book shows. I'm not a scientist, so. But
for people coming, like there's no queues or anything like you're gonna, you know, where people are gonna have to wait till people exit kind of thing. It's
no. We're good. And like I said before, I told somebody else this yesterday. I always kept the aisles pretty wide at TerrifiCon. Yeah. I mean, I've been to New York where it's tight.
Yes.
You know, and no, it's always been beyond what's needed by code, by fire marshal code. I'd always double it practically, and that way there's nobody pushing or shoving. You're never going to have that. So we already had wide open space. So this year, when I was selling the booths, there was different floor plans that we had to use over the last 7 or 8 months, because every time another ruling came out, oh, we can only have this. Yeah, how much space apart. So they would do calculations, the health department, and said, well, everyone has about 3 feet of space, and this is how many people. So we were doing that all along, but then the numbers got lower and lower and lower, especially here in Connecticut. And then they opened up everything in May, and everything was fine. So yeah, the show is like it was before, but it's not as many booths as there was in 2019. That way, there's more space. So you don't have people, if you didn't have people bumping into each other, you still don't have people bumping into each other. There's even more room. So I did that on purpose, and you could call me stupid because I could have sold booths and made money, but I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, we got enough money. Everything's paid for. Let's make sure everybody's got a lot of breathing room, so they're not worried. You're not walking around in a panic the whole time, like, oh, that guy's too close to me. So, you know, let's not do that.
And for the celebrity photo ops, meet and greets and stuff like that, any extra precautions like that? I mean,
it depends on the honestly, it depends on the celebrity. You know, I mean, I know they'll take photos without the mask and stuff. But if somebody says, "Hey, you know what? No, I don't think there's anybody that's saying they're going to take a photo with a mask. I don't think that's at all. But some of the people, as they're sitting at the table, they might wear a mask. As you know, they have thousands of people coming by for an autograph.
Yeah,
they'll do that. Again, it's up to each person. You know, they do what they want to do. Whatever they feel comfortable with, they'll do it. So that's all.
Hold on, we had a question here from Angela. Said, I have a Harley Quinn mask and Pal Boom. But I'm fully vaccinated. I bring my card in. But people don't need to bring in any kind of like IDs. Like
no. I have mine. I take a picture of it. I have it on my phone, but no one's ever asked me anywhere. For the thing. No, I mean movie theaters and grocery. No one's ever asked me for it, but I have mine still. I even have it laminated. It's in the car. But again, no one. I thought everybody was going to need to have these things on them, like, you know, wear it as a necklace, but no one's ever asked for any of it, actually. So.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, a lot, and I mean, hopefully everybody's out there.
Everybody's getting vaccinated. Yeah, that's the whole purpose of this thing. So, you know.
But I mean, it really is the honor system. So hopefully people, you know, are honest with themselves and with each other.
Hey, yeah. At the end of the day, you got to live with yourself. So, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Why lie about it?
Now here's a question that just also came in too on one of my other feeds. You've had so many people, artists and actor wise, through your shows over the years. Do you have like a unicorn for either that you have not had yet that you like you said?
Oh.
You said Rooker was somebody you've been trying.
Yeah, Rooker, and before him was Barryman, and Chris Claremont was always up on my list. John Byrne, I'd love to have John Byrne. He won't do it. He almost showed up. In 2018, we almost had John Byrne because Joe Sinnott was there, the late great Joe Sinnott.
Yes.
And John was living in Stanford, and he was driving down to Mohegan to have dinner with Joe Sinnott at Mohegan Sun. And then Joe wasn't feeling very well. So his son Mark called up Byrne and said, "Hey, we're going to go early. We're not going to stick around." So Byrne turned around and went back home, but it came this close.
Wow.
To having John Byrne at TerrifiCon. Oh, I'd like to have Bill Sienkiewicz at the show. I love Bill's artwork. I grew up, anybody from the 80s. We're 80s kids. So, you know, Sienkiewicz, Frank Miller. I've had Walt Simonson at least twice at the show. I think it was twice. Yeah, Walt's great. And actor-wise, well, Harrison Ford. That's not going to happen. Mark Hamill would be cool. He seems like a cool guy. He seems like a nerd comic book guy.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I thought Clark Gregg, he's a comic book guy. I interviewed him once. He was Agent Coulson. He's kind of cool. I like Sebastian Stan. I'll tell you who's one of the nicest guys in the world is Anthony Mackie, who played the Falcon. Or now he's Captain America. I mean, he's one of the he's just jumps up, talks to you like he's your old friend, very, very personable, very friendly. Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio, who played the Kingpin. I think he would be a great guest to have at the show. Who else? I don't know. So many people we grew up with.
Yeah.
Nicholas Hammond was coming last year.
I remember seeing that.
He was the original Spider-Man from the 70s. I had Red Brown. I was going to get Rex Smith, who was the Daredevil in that Hulk, that nasty Hulk movie. I was going to get Eric Kramer, who was the Thor. My plan was to have Marvel's original Avengers, literally, and have them all there. Have Ferrigno, Thor Kramer, Red Brown for Captain America, Rex Smith for Daredevil, Nicholas Hammond for Spider-Man, and Peter Hooton, I believe his name is. He's still with us. He was Doctor Strange on a really creepy, bad Doctor Strange TV movie. Yeah. So that was it. I was going to have all the Avengers from the 70s and 80s there.
We're going to look into for Donald Blake. I forget the actor's name. He was in a bunch of those like 80s.
Oh, the guy that played the alter ego. Yeah. I suppose you get him, but he was a nerdy guy. I remember I could see him in my mind. I remember the hammer they had was like a cheesy mallet that they had from like Home Depot, and they were all picking up, like Bruce Banner's picking it up. I'm like, that's Mjolnir. You can't just pick that up, but they were.
I love that scene. I mean, I don't know how far back you remember that movie, but like McGee comes knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for Donald Blake, and he's like, "Oh," and he's got the beer. And he's like, "Oh, I'm Donald Blake."
Yeah. I loved him. Jack Colvis was his name.
Like that.
I'm Jack McGee, intrepid reporter. You know who I loved was Darren McGavin. He's no longer with us. The Kolchak, the Night Stalker. Oh, I wish he was still around. Oh. David Duchovny would be kind of fun. You know, X-Files. He would be kind of cool to have.
You know, you mentioned people from our childhood, and I'm sure you know this because everybody was talking about it. And I've met him several times. Henry Winkler was the
he was at our show.
Oh
the nicest guest.
Oh my God!
Actually, John Shipp is one of the nicest guests.
He's a good guy too. I love him.
But Winkler was everything you could ever imagine that you'd want Fonzie to be, and he was that. And he stood in line, and he did tricks, and he entertained people, and he talked to people, and oh my goodness, that man. Everybody knew who he was. I remember when I booked him, my wife and I like, is anyone going to know who this guy is? Because he's just Fonzie to you and I. Everybody knew him. The kids knew him from Arrested Development. The other kids knew him from a bunch of books he wrote called
Hang Zipzer.
Yeah. Then he does fishing books and Night Shift. I mean, then he was on that show called Barry, which he won an award for. Yeah, Henry Winkler was fantastic.
He won that like what, a week or two after?
It was a week after TerrifiCon. We told him that. We said, "Hey, we're your good luck charm. If you win, let us know." And then he won, and I was like, "Hey, that was us. We told you about that." You know.
But I mean, probably one of the nicest guests. I met him at TerrifiCon, but I had met him at book signings for Zipzer and all that stuff over the years. I mean, and he's like, "I'll be right back. I'm taking."
I do my impression of it's like, "Hey, Mike, how are you? That's a great shirt. I love that shirt." It's like, you know what would go great with that shirt? This brand new book I wrote. I'm gonna let you have it. It's a good book. It's one of the best. Maybe you'll give it to your mother. I'm just saying. He is the softest spoken salesman. Before you know it, you've spent $500 with him. You don't know why, but you've got all the books and you've got the fishing thing and a Fonzie T-shirt. You're like, how did this happen? You know.
Oh, best guy. You know, and look how time has flown by. I definitely want to have you come back on here again too and talk pop culture stuff.
I could do that.
It's very 9:30, but I do want to ask you a question before.
Is it really 9:30? God, I got so much junk to do. Yeah.
Let me ask you a quick question. You know, we're talking about all this 80s stuff. You mentioned with Indiana Jones, I don't want to say necessarily resentment, right? But as king of the nerds, right? How do you feel now? You know, and again, probably some resentment. We're finally getting our 5th Indiana Jones movie, 40 years ago, right? Yeah. We have Ghostbusters Afterlife. You know,
Is that coming out? When is that coming out? This summer, right?
November.
Oh, okay. Because that was last year. I remember that. Yeah. Paul Rudd. Yeah.
Well, there's that. I mean, like, geez, like, you know, we're talking about Batman 66 before, like,
and Batman 89's coming back. They're doing it right now as we speak.
But like I said, Batman 66 too. Like right before Adam had passed away, they did.
He was coming to TerrifiCon. That was his last appearance. Died 2 months before he got here.
And what a nice guy he was.
Yeah.
But prior to his passing, he did those him and Burt Ward did those animated Batman and Robin movies.
Yep. They did 2 of them. Yeah, with William Shatner.
Yes, it's Two-Face. Why the hell weren't they doing these all along? But like, how do you feel? Like, you know, so 20, 30, 40 years pass, and now finally somebody's like, "Oh, let's do another one." Like, what do you think the phenomenon is behind that right now? Because that's what's going on.
Because they've run out of original ideas. Well, here's one for you. We've got the cast of Land of the Lost coming. There's a reunion happening because I grew up with that. You know, Wesley York, Kathy Coleman, and Phil Paley, who was Chaka. Mm-hmm. You know, I even tried to get Spencer Milligan, who played the dad. You know, Rick Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition. Even going to get Johnny Whitaker from Sigma the Sea Monsters. That's how crazy it was getting. How do I feel about that? I think they're trying to recapture lightning in a bottle. It doesn't work the same. The children watching shows nowadays are not the people like you and I, where we were very limited into the access to media that we had. So what we had didn't even have to be good. It was just something to watch. But now there's so many special effects and so many different computer generated images and stuff. It's taken away from a lot of the imagination. Like I mentioned before with the early Star Wars figures, the fact that they were so limited in articulation, the fact that the paint jobs were so primitive on those compared to nowadays, it almost made you had to work on it. You had to come up with your own theater in your head and imaginative storytelling. And I don't think any of that exists now. And that's why the people making the shows are kind of a result of not having a chance to think on their own. Everything was spoon-fed to them with these beautiful graphics and stuff. So they can't play pretend. They can't come up with a good story, you know? I love MASH. That's one of my favorite shows of all time. But you couldn't do that show nowadays, not because of the political correctness and all that stuff, but because of the writing and the witty jokes and stuff. They would never work. You know, the only show that I thought worked a lot was like 30 Rock. And then there's one called Mr. Mayor. There's like a lot of subtle humor going on under there because the people that are doing it are our age, actually. They're like 50-something years old, like Tina Fey, and they're writing these shows because they have that old imagination that speaks to them. Like, let's be creative to what we got in our little toy box. All these news shows, Disney Plus is great. I love The Mandalorian. I love The Loki. I love WandaVision, all that, but it's almost
Favreau's like us. He's playing with
Favreau's like us. Yeah, he gets it. He's just like, you know, playing with his little Boba Fett's and your little he gets that. So he's fine. But I worry about the ones that are coming in underneath him. Like, do they have the understanding of how to tell a good story? You know, even in the comic books, we couldn't even talk about that for hours too. There's no more word balloons on the cover. There's no more thought balloons in the book. There's no more editor's notes. It's all visual. They don't take the time to do a narrative. You know, there were so many layers to those old comic books. Like a Chris Claremont had like 8 stories going at once, and then they'd all come together in this ultimate. Like, he was like the maybe Quentin Tarantino, one of those people that tells like multiple storylines, and then they all converge at the end. You know, and I don't know. I mean, I read Donny Cates, I read Tom King, I read all that stuff. They're all fine and all, but I don't know. Maybe they're just not as good as our stuff. They're not as good as the Frank Millers, the Brian Bolins in working on Camelot 3000, which was fantastic.
I love that.
That was my favorite miniseries ever. You know, not Secret Wars. Secret Wars is really bad. If you ever read Secret Wars, it starts off great, the concept's great, but that last issue just like fell apart. You know, Marvel's Secret Wars.
The Camelot 3000, the way I got that series, like, you remember comic shops used to have like,
yes, and issue 12 took a year to come out.
I got the whole set with like, it was like a bag of comics for like.
Oh, did you now? Oh,
like
okay.
20 packs, there were like 20 comics in this pack, and it was like maybe like $5, and it was.
Just no, I was buying them as they came out, and the last issue was delayed for a year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, it was maddening because you're like, what the hell? And then when it finally showed up, you're like, I don't remember this. You had to go back and reread it. And like, oh yeah, that's how it ended. But
crazy,
gorgeous artwork. Brian Bolin. Oh my god, I was trying to get him to TerrifiCon last year too. 2020 would have been the greatest TerrifiCon in the history of TerrifiCons. Let me tell you. But you know, what are you gonna do? It's over.
2021 is gonna be
2021. We're starting back. We're getting back on the horse next week, and we're gonna ride it into the. Not sunset, riding into a dawn of a new day. And then 2022 is going to be even better when I'm running out the door to go watch Indiana Jones 5 and leaving all you there.
Cool.
And if you're watching this tonight, make sure you become a member of Foot.
Yes.
Friends of our TerrifiCon. Look at that.
On Facebook. Is it on Instagram now too? I know it's on Facebook.
Yeah, it is on. It's like FOOM, Friends of Old Marvel, but we can't do that because we have a T in our name. So we're Foot. You could be part of the Foot. You could be the foot fungus. Be part of the fungus.
I don't know if it's fungus.
Maybe that's so much. Yeah. The toenail. You could be the ingrown toenail. Mike, you are the official ingrown toenail of Foot.
There you go.
How about that?
Nice. I love it. And so people can still get their tickets. Tickets will be
available at the door. Yeah. They're still on sale. If you live in New York and you're near All Yeah Comics, you can run over to Harrison, New York. Or if you're in Connecticut, you can go to, I think Cave is sold out right now of their allotment, but there's Richie's Comic Cabana in Waterbury and BoomTube Comics in Southington, and that's it. Or you can go to Ticketmaster.com if you want to do that.
Even better.
Okay, well, people complain about those fees. I get it. I don't make the money if that makes you feel any better. It goes to the big, mighty Ticketmaster machine. I don't know what they do with their money, but I don't get any of that extra convenience fees. You know,
it's going to be a terrific event.
It's going to be a terrific con. That's the name. It's in the name. It's there. See,
sells itself.
Look at that. See, terrific con.
It sells itself.
Some sketches from some other people there. Look at that.
Oh, hold on, let me give you the full screen so you can show that off.
Oh yeah, I have a bunch of these. Every year I print them out and then I run around and tell the artists, go, "Could you sign this?" And there's Bob McLeod, there's Garcia Lopez, there's Scott Hanna. Who's that one? That's Rags Morales. There's a Tom Rainey. Let me go over here.
Tom Rainey.
There's a Zek. What do you got? There's a Wolverine from Joe Rubenstein.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a couple more. And then there's Brett Breeding.
Nice.
I don't know who that is. I got to remember who it is. And then there's some notes. And then way at the bottom, Michael Jai White, a.k.a. Black Dynamite, who I went to college with. There you go. And that's it. I got a couple of these, actually. Every year I print those out and run around and get people to sign. Because I told you, I'm the biggest nerd. My wife goes, we only do these shows not to make money. It's just so you can go and get your autographs, and they have to be nice to you because you pay their bills. I go, yes.
Yeah, that works.
That's all about. That's it. That's the only reason why I did this, is so I can get cheap autographs and sketches.
Hey, that's one of the side perks of being a showrunner and working cons, right?
So they tell me, plus not sleeping.
Man, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And, you know,
I only work 3 days a year. That's all people tell me. They go, I wish I had your job. You only work 3 days a year. They don't know I'm, after hanging up with this, I'm going there trying to fix some behind the scenes stuff going on right now.
Yeah. So what we will let you get onto that.
I don't want to. Please don't.
But go, for everybody watching, go to TerrifiCon next weekend, and get your tickets. Go see Mitch. And Mitch is around.
I'll be there.
You'll find him.
If I'm cranky, it's just the con talking. It's not me. It's the tiredness. People are like, you're mean when you're at TerrifiCon. I go, no, I'm not. Terrible. No, I get tired. I think it's a 17-hour show. I think I get about 4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
And then I have PTSD for the following week. Literally, I'll wake up every morning thinking the show's the next day. Like, oh my God, go to the airport. I can't sleep. I'll wake up at like 1 o'clock in the morning and be up till 6.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's nuts. I can't sleep after that. And then I got GamerCon in September because for some stupid reason, I thought it would be fine when I moved it from March to September, not realizing I had TerrifiCon the month before. So I got
I didn't
back-to-back shows. Yeah, I didn't realize it either till now. And I'm like, oh, man, this is dumb.
Holy crap.
So if I make it, then we'll have a great 2022. If not.
So, and then, yeah, it's just GamerCon. So September, and then it'll be back to its regular time.
Yeah, back in March when it should have been. But I was like, So March, September 18th and 19th, GamerCon. That's easier. That's just video games and Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. And there's no celebrities. And it's a very quiet atmosphere. But I don't know. It is what it is.
Hey, you'll do it.
I'll see you guys next week. And I'll be there. And you'll be there. And we'll all have fun again. And we'll all be at Mohegan Sun.
Cool. Cool, Mitch. Thank you so much. Just hang out for 1 second after we leave. Everybody, we'll see you next week on IncrediChat. Thank you again, Mitch, for joining us. Go to TerrifiCon.com, check out the guest list, get your tickets, and we will see you all next time.